like in a flash, something can go desperately wrong in electrical equipment or that job, right? And what I find, even to this day, is that electricians should value what they do so much more than how they do, because your job is about life safety. What you do prevents people from getting hurt. When you do a efficient and effective job on your distribution and you putting it in, that is about keeping people safe on the other side of that receptacle, right? And I find that you should value the job much more than I'm just throwing in receptacles, and I'm not, because you can save lives. There's other trades that are out there, but they're not dealing every day with something that you could hurt yourself with, right? When you're, as an electrician, when you're dealing on those voltages, you could actually hurt yourself and cause life extending damages to you. And I think that the value of an electrician, they have to understand that it's not just an electrician. You're a very valuable entity.
Those words you just heard were Cindy Cameron of JezCan. She's going to join us today on the show to talk about a wholesaler's perspective in the electrical industry. This is What's the Word, an electrical industry podcast, and I'm your host, Zach Hartle, and I'm joined by Jason Cox, where we're having relevant conversations with members from all over the community. We're super excited about our conversation today, so let's jump into it. Cindy, welcome to the show today. We're excited to chat with you. We know you've been at JezCan for 19 years and then have more years of experience before that. So I guess, first of all, can you tell us maybe a little bit what you do at JezCan now and how you got to that point, just in like 1 or 2 minutes?
Or less. Okay.
Or less.
Yeah. I do outside sales for JezCan at the moment. I have been, like I said, with JezCan 19 years. I have been in the industry, electrical industry, 40 next week, April 9th. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I started off as a mailroom clerk, went from there, did filing. I participated in basically every job that's within a distributor. So I worked counter, I did receiving, I did purchasing, I did inside sales, I did quotation management. I worked both on electrical and data sides of the spectrum. I was a quotation manager, and then I went back out into outside sales, and I did purchasing too. So I did a lot of roles within the company in order to have a big breadth of understanding of how our industry works.
And that's useful, right? I mean, you've seen a little bit of everything. I just got to ask though, before we get into too much more, I've always wondered, what is the difference between inside sales and outside sales?
So inside sales, I worked inside sales. So what it is that a client will call, and there's usually, they have bases or any call that comes into a building. So they're answered, by an inside sales. So you have inside sales that then take the orders and then process them, and then they go back out to the building. So some are called data entry, but I prefer them to be knowledgeable so that they are able to, when somebody calls in, they're able to ask questions. So if you have EMT, they're asking where the couplings and the connectors are, or the big one, PVC. Do you need any glue? So they are a contact, like second contact, either through reception or nowadays there's a lot of automated reception. So they are our first contact with the client. So they need to be knowledgeable about the products that we have in-house. As an outside sales, my job is to develop accounts. So I have a client base who I either see on a regular basis or have contact with, the project managers, the purchasers, and the owners. And that's to develop a relationship to be able to see what their needs are and to be able to find solutions for problems they might be having, or working with them on future jobs and having an understanding of where they're at, or if they're changing their focus on their business. So I try to be myself. I try to be solution orientated because I don't like dealing just with price. Not my idea of a good time.
If I'm a contractor and I have a job coming up and I'm doing commercial business and I need a material takeoff list, do I send you kind of, hey, this is kind of what I need, and do you guys give me a takeoff of, well, this is the number of panels you need? Like, do you just build a whole package together and say, we can give you this product?
But there's two different things, Jason, right? There's the service side. Okay, so they may go into a house and say, hey, I need, they're building a little list on the notepad, and I need 3 breakers for this panel, and I need to put some NMD in here. Oh, I've got to change this. So there's that type of, an ask. Then there's another type of an ask, and I think this is more where you're coming from, is on the project side, where there's a quotation or a job or a closing date. It's been driven by a GC, an end user, client, that way for you. So then that's a bid process, which is done a bit differently. So here in Calgary, it's the responsibility of the contractor to provide a bill of material. So that means that you go into the plans, you go and you do your counts on your fixtures, you put them down, you do your distribution, also you follow the single line, and then you send it into, most distributors have quotation departments. So then that would go into the quotation department, and whether they CC the outside sales or not on it, so that we're aware. So at that time, then once it's hit the quotation department, okay, then they would take it and dissect it again, take in the luminaire schedule, because the specifications and drawings should be all there, including the close date, including who the engineer is, if there's questions that are going back out to the contractor. So we would then take it out and put it to the manufacturer, or to the agency that is involved in that specific job. Then there's also the individual customer that they're doing, they have their own client and they're out and they need a lighting layout done. They've walked into the place and, oh, we need just a fixture upgrade. The client, and he's only coming to you. So you're marking down how many fixtures I need, and you would give that information. We have like a lighting specialist. So then you go to your outside sales, or if you have one assigned, or you would take it into the distributor and give it to an inside sales, or speak to the lighting rep for that distributor. And they would ask you like ceiling height, and they'd ask you the color of what was in that building, how wide, how long, what's the spacing, what's the building being used for, or that space being used for, because there's different lighting degrees for different types of workplaces. So they would take that information, right, and then voltage, lumens, and everything else, if you high bay, whatever kind of fixtures you're looking for, and then make suggestions back out to you, which then you can then take to your end users and provide, pricing, labor, and everything else to them. That makes sense?
Yeah, you said it way better than I articulated. So when you were speaking with one of your potential clients or one of your clients, a lot of time you're going to send that information right to your quotation department.
Yeah. So what happens, because I have a developed base, so a lot of the people that are in my base will already send it right to the quotation people, and they'll copy me.
Okay.
If it's someone new, right, someone that's new, they would come into our building, or they would phone in and ask, hey, who can I get a quotation from? And then it would go, depending on the type of quotation they were looking for, whether it's what we call B material, which is anything that's basically in the warehouse that would be day-to-day goods, okay? Or if it's future shipping, future job, then it would go into the project department, and they would then price it out accordingly to either the fixture manufacturers or the schedule that's given, or there may be nothing. They have to have then the conversation, or I have the conversation with the client to figure out what it is they're trying to achieve.
So one thing we mentioned, and I think I'm correct on this, so correct me if I'm wrong. Things like pipe, wire, boxes, those would all be B class material. Everything that's kind of more special ordered from the manufacturer, that would be A class material. Is that correct?
Yeah, you could have B class material, say fixtures, 2x4s, 1x4s, LEDs, high bays. Those are still B class because they're sitting in the warehouse and they're turn items. So someone may come in and get 32x4s.
Okay.
The differentiates itself when you get to a project, and it may be the same product that's in as a B. However, there's more of it. Okay. And a lot of projects go direct to site and don't turn out of the warehouse.
Cindy, if I'm starting a company and I'm coming to you guys to set up an account, what's some of the conversations we would have if I was coming to you trying to set up an account for my new electrical company?
Okay, so I'll speak to just like our company. So if a gentleman, lady, whoever comes in and they want to set up an account with us, there's forms on our website that would be filled out. We would, or I would, if I'm talking to them, I would find out first of all, like how long they've been an electrician, if they're a master or not, how many people they have employed. Is this their first venture? Who else that they are setting up accounts with on the credit information. And we would give them a credit app. The credit app ours has about 21 items on it. Okay, for them to review. And they are like, where I took a little note. So they'd have like things like on the credit are like payment terms. They would have what happens if you don't pay within a specific amount of time, what the interest would be charged, where a liability is. We have information, our quotations and our pricing. So there's a little paragraph there about price changes. If something happens that we have no control over, there's a clause for that. There's on taxations, on cancellations, on return policies, even on wire and cable, because wire, once you've cut it, it's basically of no value to anyone, right? The status of the seller, the liabilities, durations of quotes. Like we have 21 paragraphs that they have to go through, and they read that. And then in our actual form, they ask about, how many dollars you spend, right? Do you think, how big do you believe that you're going to be? They ask for references on who else you've done business with, or they also ask for collateral or guarantees for liens if something goes wrong. So if someone opens an account and they can't pay anything, they need to put something up in order for unfortunately the distributor to have something to fall back on for pricing. Once the account is established, then they would then assign either into the house where it would get its pricing level, or depending on whom it is, maybe it's an established account that's just decided they're going to open up at your branch also. And it may get assigned to an outside sales. So if it were to get assigned to me, then I would have a phone up and have a conversation with the client. And again, ask what business segment are they? Are they commercial? Are they industrial? Are they institutionalized? Like those type of questions. So I would find whether or not I was a good fit for them or not, because there's certain things I have strength in and there's other things that I don't. And I don't want to just have an account to have an account. I want to have it because I want to try and add value to their business. So some of the gentlemen and ladies that I have in my account, I then go a little bit step further and I ask them, what kind of background do you have? Have you ever taken any business courses? Are you aware of what cost of operating your office is, or your van is, or like, have you done any of these things? because if they don't understand what their true costs are, it's not about putting $50 out an hour and, hey, this is great, I'm on my own and this is good. It's also about the cost of what they have in their house. If they have an office in their house, they still have to pay for their lights. They still should be paying their WCB. They should still be, managing a cash flow. Do they understand that they should have cash flow, that they need a line of credit, that when they're putting out a quotation, that all their operating costs should be in there before they put profit onto anything, not just take their labor and figure that everything is taken care of that way, because it's not. So most of the people that I have dealt with, we've gone through some of those challenges. And I also say to them, if you can make it to about the third year and you're turning a profit, good for you. But those first 2 years, they're going to be tough. And you need to have financial backing or be very cautious of the type of business that you take. There are some guys that open their doors and they already have clients that they are already taking with them or have been working with, but they still need to understand what that cost is. And yeah, I get worried sometimes about, especially with the economy the way that it is. But I've also have established customers that have given me a purchase order and I said, no, I don't want it. It's not good for us. And they go, what? and because there's holdbacks. There's guys that aren't paying. There's GCs that may not want to pay within the period of time, right? Or end users. There's certain industries that have a hard time paying in 30 days and it's usually 90 days. So you have to understand who your client is and if they're going to pay you on time, because that's important. Because distributors, we don't, we pay our bills. We have our bills paid in 30 days. Our expectation is that you're paying us on time or you're done. Someone that's established with us, we can always have a conversation because you're all, through the years and through relationships, you understand you're going to do business with that company again because you've done business with them before. And there is always going to be bumps in the road. And as a good and true distributor that's working as a partner, you work that relationship with that client. But when you're just starting out, all the onus is on you to make sure that you're that you're fulfilling your side of the duty. So most distributors, if you've not paid your bills with them, they're done, especially right now with all, because they eat that money, right? It goes to the bottom line. It's a loss. Most distributors at most places, 1% of overall sales is what, bad debt is. And so they're not playing with anyone these days. They're at all. The economy is too shaky. And some people just don't want to pay. So hopefully that makes sense to you.
Oh, well, it's just the conversation, what you're, over 40 years, the things you must have seen, the successes and the unfortunate circumstances. Some of those stories must be real doozies. I guess it's time and having enough money to wait to be paid as the contractor, right? And then realizing that there's other people waiting to be paid as well, right?
And sometimes, you get holdbacks on it's supposed to be 10% of what the overall is. And you have larger jobs where I have a client right now, they have $140,000 being held back for about a $400 item. Now, where's the logic in that? So they're fighting to get their money. I would too. And so that puts a flag up for them going I'm not sure if I really want to deal with that. I have another client that has a contract for one portion of the job and something happened during this job. And so they got 2 additional contracts through insurance. However, the main job, they're utilizing it as not to pay them, again, some of their holdback for something because of these other 2 additional, which has nothing to do with it. It makes me frustrated when I see these type of things, like people should do good business and business fairly and equitably. And some people are not, they're very like selfish. They think that by, holding a carrot over someone's head, that they're going to extrapolate or be able to get something better or quicker or more efficiently. And sometimes this just isn't possible.
So are there, if I am starting an electrical company, kind of back into that thread a little bit, is there an advantage to having an account with, let's say, JezCan or any of the wholesalers, as opposed to if I'm more of a service type company, just going in and buying stuff off the shelf?
Well, if you have an account, right? If you have an account and you have someone assigned to it, you're going to get maybe different discounts, or you're going to have the ability to online. You can, well, we have our brochures and stuff that are online that you can take a look at. But your actual pricing is probably, well, it is better as an account than it would be for a cash sale.
Okay.
Because our business is about electrical contractors, not cash sales that walk in. We do have some people that prefer to pay cash, even though they're a master electrician and that's what they prefer to do. However, that's their choice, but they will pay, they'll pay more than if you have an account.
Well, I mean, when you look at the cash sales, what that leads to is the electrician's customer saying, well, tell you what, I'll go buy all the material myself.
Correct.
And I'll get it at the same price or cheaper. But then that's when the client forgets that there's those other costs associated with the installation.
Yeah, like pulling a permit. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Jason. Like that's the thing. Like you'll have somebody, oh, well, I can get this, I can get it cheaper, I can get that. And then they miss 40% of the components because they think that they know, oh yeah, this is great. Oh, this is wonderful. I got a panel, yay. Well, they didn't get any breakers to put into it. They don't know how to size the breakers to go into it, right? So their expectation is like a lot of where a lot of end users, like large end users, will buy the fixtures off a job. We'll get the fixtures out. We'll buy those 1,000 fixtures and we'll supply it to the contractor. Who looks after the warranty? Right? Do you just accept the fact that, oh, I'm going to put those fixtures in and I'm going to look after the warranty? Why would an electrical contractor look after the warranty for something that they're not receiving any type of remuneration for?
I have a good friend of mine once that gave a client a takeoff on a job, and it wasn't a big job, and he included tape, and he put a price on the tape, and the client was like, oh, I'm not paying for tape. He said, okay. So if you're not paying for tape, you probably don't want to pay for lube. You don't want to pay for someone to carry the material in. Like, what do you want to pay for? Well, I guess they don't want to pay for anything, but they want to have a new install.
I had many years ago, this one sticks out on me because I got annoyed. And I don't normally get too annoyed because I had every day something new happens in my world electrically. And I mean that. Like I learned something new. I experienced something new. It is one thing that fascinates me is that every day there is something different than yesterday. But this one incident was where we had priced out, I was a quotation manager at that time, and we had priced out this job 4 or 5 different times so far. And each time it was all about the cost savings of coming down from this fixture, maybe it was architectural, all the way down. So the person that worked underneath me said, oh my God, they've asked me again. And I said, okay, can you just give me the file? I'll take a look at it. So I phoned the contractor and I said, so here, we have finished. We're not doing this anymore. Here's the bottom dollar. A 60A lamp is worth 60 cents. A wire guard is worth $2.20. That's it. No more. Call us when you're ready to place a purchase order. That was the end of the discussion. Because You can always find something that's less expensive. You can find some, as people cheap, right? But does it do the work that you need it to do, right? You can put 50 fixtures in some places. Oh, this is wonderful. Overlit, underlit. The spacing's incorrect, right? There are lots of reasons that people should go to a distributor or to electrical contractor and use the specialists that they have in their buildings in order to make sure that the end user gets what they want.
It sounds to me like you're almost describing a partnership, right? Versus that person that goes out and, hey, I can go buy all this material at the giant hardware store. When you're dealing with a wholesaler, you actually have a partnership there where they've got experience from doing this in the past. They have experts in lighting. You just mentioned that. I'm sure they would have an idea of data communications, right? When electricians are doing cable pulls and stuff, they might not know exactly what they're doing. You guys have seen in the past all the hurdles that people are going to run into and challenges with trying to set up their business. So yeah, the big word out of this I'm getting right now is you're setting up a partnership.
I like that term, like that partnership relationship with clients and trying to understand what it is that their needs are and that they trust that you're trying to understand that. Like we have a distribution specialist also in our building. Some do, some don't, depending on the so they can actually do the single line, provide you with what is required on the full job, because that's basically what we try to do, is to provide a end-to-end solution for a contractor, right? And yeah, so when someone opens an account with us, it all depends too, right? Like they could be little or they could end up being massive, right? And someone that's a medium-sized guy, depending on where, so their business may only be, oh, today it's townhouses, risky. No, we did a really good job at this. 6 months from now or a year from now, their cash flow's coming in, they're paying their supplier, they're getting paid by their, you know what, I think we might branch off a little bit and try that little commercial strip mall, right? So you have to have an idea of how to flow with them and grow with them and give them whatever it is knowledge-wise or some sort of through either yourself and or through the manufacturer's rep, so that you can help them grow if that's what they decide to do, right? And in that industry that they choose. And as distributors, like, we have manufacturers that we represent, and they have their expertise, which we are to utilize as salespeople, because we don't know everything. We need to rely on our manufacturers, especially lighting guys these days when it changes like that, right? Distribution, not so much. However, with lighting, going from fluorescents to T12s, T8, T5, now we're into LEDs. Right? And you've got selectable. So you can get 3 different types of colors, 3 different voltages, 3 different lumens, all in one, in one simple 2x4, right? So there's a lot of things that hopefully as a distributor, we can bring to an electrical contractor to make their job easier. Because at the end of the day, right, people want to deal with people that makes their lives easy. Our job is to have the top items that the client needs on our shelf, right? So that they don't have to put it in their house. Some of these medium-sized guys, there used to be years where people filled their warehouse and their service guys came in, picked up what they wanted and left in the morning. Now, a lot of companies have their service guys come into the building, pick up what they need, and then leave. And like our company, like we have our apps, like our mobile app is awesome. Like a guy can go in and make a quick list for themselves. So if there's 10 products that they use every day, they can put it in. They can order online, it comes out onto the system, and then if, within, the next day, the morning, it's ready, they can pick up, go to the e-com, get it, and off they go, right? So if you're smaller to mid-size, it cuts down on time coming in and doing the counter. Also, if it's a foreman that's doing it for their apprentice to come pick it up, you don't have that. Usually the mistake is apprentices are learning, right? So they'll go, oh yeah, I got that. Oh, but where's this, and this? Oh, I didn't realize I needed it. So here's the trip. I got to go back again. Right? The app also can tell you if there's stock. Like if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're stuck and you've got to phone distributors around, I need this, who's got it? Well, at least it can go on our app and go, hey, yeah, they have 4 in Calgary or 3 in Airdrie. I know it's not a wasted trip, right?
And that's the moneymaker right there. Like nobody likes phoning people anymore, and nobody likes going anywhere when you don't know if it's going to be on the shelf or not, right?
And right now we have, and it's no fault of any distributor, it is a supply chain issue. It is a way of the world. You may go onto a distributor today and get, for instance, number 12, you'll get red and black. I don't have any blue. Sorry, my white's in transit. So then they have to leave and go to the distributor 2 blocks away to go get the white. And now they're really because now they got to go get the red somewhere else, because it just, I'm only using that as an example, right? But those things are real. Those types of things are real. That's costly to an electrical contractor when they have to go 3 or 4 times. But there's also the other side of it, where larger companies, where you have where they're issuing purchase orders, and there's the intangibles. So you have a PO that has, 4 items on it, and all of a sudden, well, this guy has it here for $1, and this one has it at 98 cents, and this guy I'll create 3 purchase orders so that I can save myself, $25. And then they create themselves more purchase orders that have, by the time they receive them, because then you have to check them off or they have to write them up, they've extended the $25. Now you've got the intangible. You don't see it, but there is a cost to writing the purchase orders. There's a cost of paying them out twice, cost of having somebody drive around, or they could have just gotten the material at one place for the extra $25. Instead, they're spending $75 on intangibles, right?
Well, I mean, it's your time, right? What is your time worth? Right? Is it worth, I mean, setting up, like, you're doubling your POs, so it's going to be double the administration there to save $25, and then you're going to have to go from A to B, right? So sometimes it's just you want the one-stop shop, right?
Yeah, you try for that.
Yeah.
That is the thing. That's the thing that it would be really, really great to be able to do that. Right now, it is more difficult, but you have to think past just the dollars. And I'm only using that as a small analogy, right? Like sometimes there's like a lot of dollars involved. So yeah, it makes sense, but sometimes it doesn't. You have to sometimes right now change the way that you look at how you used to do business and how you do it today compared to how you did it last year or the year before, right? You have to, contractors, even if products that used to be 7 to 10 days, maybe out of the East, or 4 months. Unfortunately, the contractor also does not have that window of time, because people hold on to their contracts, and the window keeps getting shorter for when their end date is. And then the expectation is that, oh yeah, we'll have no issue getting that product. Yes, you do. And that line here gets extended. And if contractors aren't careful, they sign deals that if they don't hit that date, cost them money, which is their holdbacks. And then they're still responsible for something that they couldn't do in the first place because the timeline wasn't good enough, or right, with the expectations. So And also too, and this will be a good one, that I can't wait to see what happens in the next little bit too, with transportation costs, with our, how our gasoline and oil, diesel, all of it is going up. But there's not as many goods that travel west to east as east to west. So when you're looking at transportation vehicles, like just actual trucks and semis that are coming this way, and you've got no load to go back as a transport company, since what, 2018, there's already a driver shortage, regardless, prior to pandemic, no matter what everybody says. Prior to the pandemic, there's a shortage of like 20,000 drivers prior to that. And manufacturers are going to go, well, okay, or transport companies are going, okay, it's going to cost you no more money to go from east to west because I don't have anything going back. So it's going to cost me twice as much, because since I have nothing east to west, then, or west to east, then I'm not going to have just a free truck out there for two weeks doing nothing. So that, I'm sure, is something that's is going to be affecting the cost of goods too here in the next 3 to 6 months. It's not just about the shortage of commodities.
Yeah, and that's definitely something I never thought of, but yeah, you don't want that empty truck driving back, right? It's pointless.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And trains are effective, but add a lot of delivery time.
We're talking about, everyone's hearing the supply chain issue now. I can't remember where I was the other day, and somebody, I think I was in a retail store, and the guy stocking shelves mentioned supply chain. What's the dreaded hard to find thing in your industry right now? Like, we hear breakers are hard to come by. What's the hot topic of things that are hard to pick up these days?
Really, it depends. I guess it depends on what the contractor is asking for. I was looking for some RW90 number 4, 16 weeks. I was looking for RWU number 4, right, to 20 weeks. And it could be different from manufacturer to manufacturer. Every manufacturer, when you do a single pull breaker, it's one type of resin. So if it's double pull breakers, it's a different type of resin. So resin is something that is right now in short supply. So that's why the breakers are longer to come out. PVC is in allotments. PVC has resin in it. Wire has resin in it, right? In the nylon. So one item, just resin, causes a bunch of different types of products to have longer deliveries. And we forget, as much as we love our electrical world, we're not the only industry in the world. You have a mechanical industry. You have a car industry that uses steel, right? You have all these other industries that actually use the same products that you do. So we may think that we're like number one on the list, but in actuality, there's a lot of other industries that may use some of these products much more. So they're higher on the list for some of these manufacturers that maybe we don't utilize all the time, coming down than us. So that's just reality. But we never think about it like that either. We have with supply also the chips, the electronic chips, but we knew electronic chips are going to be an issue prior to pandemic. Like they were having issues there. Now it's just harder. And in those chips, a lot of ballasts, like on fixtures, some of your distribution equipment have electronic chips in them, right? In the larger electronic breakers. So things that never used to even cross your mind, and it could be just one simple little thing, but you can't get it. And you can't send, like sometimes you can't send a panel, for instance, out because it needs CSA approval on it. So it isn't about just, hey, I can send that. No, it's the type that it needs to be certified before it goes. And sometimes they don't allow you to certify them in the province or take it apart and put it in. So there's a lot of other things that happen, even though you don't have that one little part.
I never thought we'd talk about resin today on the podcast, but are you seeing a lot of your contractors kind of build up their stock just in preparation for these escalating prices?
No, not really. There's sort of like buying as required and or trying to pre-order. Like I had an incident where we put something in order last year in September, and we were still working on getting deliveries in December, and this was of B material, right? The client knew ahead of time that there was going to be issues, right? So we just worked through them, and they were able to work, and we worked with the manufacturer so that some of the products that they needed front end, that we were able to get those. And then as they built their building, we were able to bring in other product out along the way, so that the manufacturer had an idea of what the overall usage would be and what was required. However, we didn't need it all like right at that moment. We needed it, if we can stagger here, here, and here, then that worked also. And the manufacturer, didn't cost the manufacturer anything more for freight, didn't cost the client anymore to hold the material they were, or having to finance it because we built it as it came out. But by giving the manufacturer that extra amount of time of lead time, then that allowed them to do their job more effectively and efficiently also. And I've had different things like that happen. I had a where we had a huge amount of a product, and the manufacturer didn't have the employees available because of COVID to be able to build the product. He had the material, didn't have anyone to put the product together, right? So we staggered it out. It took, I think, 16 weeks for us to get everything. Yeah.
What a time for logistics, right? We got COVID, we've got fluctuating gas prices, we got a lack of staffing, right?
Resin shortage.
You love that one, don't you? Resin.
Well, it's just like you were saying. I mean, you learn something new every day, and a lot of times we take things for granted, right? And yeah.
Well, and I'm like I said, it will be interesting. Like, I mean, we have all the shortage, we have all that. We've been dealing with it. We are still dealing with not full manufacturing plants and everything else, right? Even with the COVID, there's people that are not going. They just don't want to go back to work, right? Like, and people are leaving the industry, right? And doing something else. And then we have within the industry too, I have contractors looking for journeymen. I haven't seen or heard an electrical contractor look for journeymen in a very long time. And then wait out, like we've had that discussion, wait with the lull because of the pandemic and what has happened, the lull of apprentices and moving forward, because they're for a year and a half, 2 years, very unsteady. Like, I'm not sure how that's going to form in a little bit, right? Like, you're already having a shortage of like journeymen. Like, I'm guaranteed we're not going to have a whole bunch of apprentices here in the next year or two. You could speak to that. You guys probably could speak to that more than I can.
It's hard to say though, right? I mean, like you said, during that COVID break or whatever we want to call it, there's people that have just that have decided to move in different directions for careers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never like to think of it as a boom because we were so low down there, right? But I mean, sure, we're going to see the economy start to build up. So there could be changes to our industry for sure.
Neither Jason or I mean, I guess I shouldn't speak for him, but had the chance to deal a lot with distributors other than going into a counter or sometimes emailing an inside sales rep. So to hear about, those partnerships between building businesses and between distributors. It's great to hear, right? I mean, it's what we want in the industry, and that's actually what this podcast is all about. Just building relationships, building connections and partnerships between everyone involved in the industry, right?
Well, and you're going to have to see more of that happening just because of the way of the world right now, right? And if we do go into another one of our, we have to remember for 2.5 years, very little building was done, very little maintenance have been done, very little upgrade. Like, so now all of a sudden you have the backlog of years of work also that has to be done in buildings, in and down in our downtown core here too is like 35 years, probably most of it. Okay, so and that like there's a maintenance schedule. Like after a certain amount of time, it has to be redone.
Yeah, there's life cycle.
Yeah, so a lot of our core, that even though it's at like the vacancy rate, it still has to be done, right? Because it's end of life.
So yeah, I mean, just to wrap things up, Cindy, like, thank you so much for coming on the show. Jason and I both really do appreciate your time.
Well, and I appreciate that you asked me. However, I hope I did, like I said, I hope I did justice to our, our distributor role. I hope I answered the questions effectively and efficiently, right? Because as a distributor, right, we're like a conduit right, no pun intended, or a bridge between manufacturers and agents to contractors and end users.
Thanks for joining us today on What's the Word podcast. We really hope you liked this episode. And if you did, please make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you haven't had a chance yet, leave us a review on Apple or Spotify to help us get the word out. And most importantly, if you think this show could be valuable to one of your friends in the electrical community, please share it with them. Thanks for coming today. Have yourself a great day. Keep yourself safe out there. And if you can, someone else too.